Jenny was born out of the ashes of Jack Tar via Flower Thief, and after Flower Thief disassembled, we were still into doing the band thing, and Pirate Jenny was born.
Let's see, I guess we started in '94 in January, and we looked for a drummer, we advertised, and got our first drummer, Peter McMahon, who was also in the band Squeak, and we played with him for about 6 months, and then his other band, Squeak, moved to San Francisco, so off he went, and we spent the next 6 months playing with different friends of ours, trying to find a permanent drummer, until in January of '95 we got John.
They were auditioning for a drummer, and found out about them from their, as always, very cool flyers left around with this kind of campy picture of a desperate-looking woman saying, "We need a drummer," or something like that. And I thought it was very cool, so I called them, went over to their house. We played, just jammed on some of their tunes that I hadn't really heard before, but I think I picked them up fairly quickly, luckily, and that was about it. They almost settled on one other person, then she didn't work out, and so they called me. The first training I had was a workshop in New York. It's called Jazzmobile, and it's actually the same people who do the Jazz in July workshop things at UMass, like Billy Taylor, Max Roach, all those guys. And part of what they do is they send mobile sound units around the city and they give free concerts, but they also have a workshop in the summer for all instruments. It's really the coolest thing. It's like you sign up, you audition, they put you in a certain class, and it's 1 day a week on Saturdays. You study theory all morning, and then just general music theory, and then you perform on your instruments for the rest of the day, like a class, a master class. And it was all real, like, name jazz players. So I would pack up my drums once a week, or the little kit that I had, and get on 2 subways and go up to East Harlem. It was like 125th and Park, in the middle of this kind of like washed out neighborhood, but it had a public school, and spend the whole day learning music and playing drums with this guy named Freddie Waits, who was just a great studio jazz drummer.
I started with piano when I was like 5, and then I played recorder, and that's actually the first instrument I wrote music on. And then I wanted to be a cellist so bad, but my mom and dad didn't want to drive me to school all the time with it, so they made me play the flute, which apparently I've got good lips for, so I did that. And I played all the way through college, and by the end of college I started getting really into jazz flute. And now I don't do any of that stuff. Now I play electric guitar.
I've been playing guitar since I was 8 or 10. I guess I was 10, but not electric guitar, and not really seriously. It's weird because I never thought about writing songs. I mean, I did all sorts of creative things when I was a kid, and was encouraged to by my parents, but nobody ever said, like, you could write a song. It was like something I never thought of.
I guess the first thing we really recorded was a 3-song EP, which we put out on vinyl and cassette, and we recorded it at Slaughterhouse in Hadley with really great guy Mark Miller, who engineered it. And yeah, that was my first time in a real studio. It was kind of scary, and it came out well. we basically played it live together with very little finagling and almost no like overdubbing or anything like that. So when I hear it, it's nice to know that it's pretty much really what we sound like.
We have always been a band that is very into live recording. I mean, we've been playing, we play everything at the same time. The songs from the single, that whole recording session at Slaughterhouse, we played live and dubbed the vocals later. But all the instrument stuff was live. And 2 of the songs we got on the first take. We always feel like there's going to be more oomph and more pizzazz if we do it that way. But I think we're going to have to also experiment with tracking.
When we went into the studio to record the 7-inch, you know, we basically only had enough money to whip out 3 songs as fast as we could. You know, the engineer slapped on mics in front of the amplifiers and we played it live, and it still cost too much. But that was disappointing. I mean, I was fairly happy with the final product, but I think the process really needs to take more time. In the past, when I've done like the electronic music, I've been in a studio by myself, spending night after night after night working on something and fine-tuning something and being creative with the recording process. And that's the way I want to do it, and that's the way, you know, I eventually want Pirate Jenny to do it. To prepare for a live show, I usually do everything I can to forget about it. I don't think about it. I try not to do anything special. In the back of my mind, I think, don't eat too much cheese, don't drink too much coffee, but that's about it. Usually the best
I have all these
shows are the
strange
ones.
rituals that come up just because I'm still so nervous and sometimes unconfident about my playing that I'm always afraid that something's going to throw it off entirely. So if I find something that works, I stick with it. Like, one of my rituals is I pound a big thing of V8 before I play, which is like vegetables and like 60 million grams of salt, so it like my blood pressure goes shooting through the roof and it like wakes me up.
Usually
That's,
we
like,
scramble home
one
from work
thing.
and like flying around trying to eat. And then John comes over and like waits for us to get dressed. No, everything is pretty much condensed. I mean, we have like each have a suitcase that has everything in it. So when it comes time to load, we just pack the guitars in their cases and throw everything in the car. Amy and I had always talked about a label, thinking it would be a neat idea, and we'd always kind of written it off as we don't have time for it, which we probably don't. But when it came time to put out our single last December of '95, we were like, well, we've got to put something on it. We can't just send it out there with nothing. So we came up with the idea of Red Hot Records, and of course right away we decided we wanted to do some projects. And I think, like, in the beginning we thought we were going to do a lot more with the label as far as individual projects with different local bands, and we realized that I think the main point for us in Red Hot is kind of doing group projects that help the whole music scene. I mean, even the compilation that we put out, there's only 12 bands on there, but I think that it still helps Northampton, I mean the whole like Northampton area scene, just by it being out. And we want to do projects that are like that. I mean, besides putting out the Pirate Jenny stuff, the projects that we put out will be mainly like group-oriented and including a lot of bands.
The history of the Mitchells kind of goes like this. Caleb and I met registration day of our freshman year. There was an honors banquet in the Franklin Dining Commons, and we were at the same table, and we had to write down like our list of our hobbies. And it turned out we both wrote down guitar, so we got to talking. And later on that day, Caleb brought down his guitar and his amp, and we jammed a little bit. And it just went from there.
We decided we wanted to play in front of people, so we asked Bill, who happened to have a bass and also happened to live on my hall, if he would play with us. And he said yes, just this once. He didn't think he would like playing with us. But now he likes us, and he's still with the band.
I'd gotten a couple of offers from people I wasn't very interested in, and then Caleb showed up, and he said, you know, all I want is just one song, you know, or one show. Just play that one show for us, you know. We'll just do like 3 or 4 songs. You know, and then no obligation past that. That's all we want from you. And I wasn't real thrilled at the time, but I was sort of, you know, it was something to do.
I put up a flyer looking for a band, and they called me, and that was spring of '94. So that's pretty much how we got together.
I started playing bass in 9th grade because it got me into a band, and because I didn't really know what a bass was, so I was talking with some friends, and one of them saying, I think I'm going to start playing guitar again, you know, that'd be pretty cool. And I said, yeah, I might start guitar, or maybe I'll play bass, just to sort of to slide in there. I didn't have one. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what it sounded like. I thought that really loud, distorted guitar was bass, so that's what I wanted to play. I didn't want a solo was the only thing.
I originally wanted to play bass, but that didn't work out. I got to the music store, and between my dad and the guy behind the counter, they convinced me that playing bass wasn't any fun, and that guitar would just be a lot better. So I didn't care. They asked me what I wanted to play. I'm like, I don't care. I don't have any preference. You know, I didn't care what style of music. I just wanted to play something.
I started playing drums when I was in 5th grade because I originally signed up for the saxophone, but the school didn't have any saxophones left to loan me. So I had to take drums because it was the only thing I could afford, or my parents could afford, to buy for me, which was the pad and the sticks.
I had originally wanted to play drums, but I didn't have the coordination then, or the money. So I picked up the guitar, and never had friends who played guitar, so I never got to learn from them the way other people do. So I was really kind of a retarded guitar player in the true sense of the word, and until I met friends at college who also played. Then I learned quickly from them.
We did a real demo in the very beginning of '95, which had 5 songs, and that also got us into the WBRU Rock Hunt, which we then managed to win $1,000 and put towards the 7-inch, which then we pulled 2 songs off the tape because we were too cheap to go back and record again, which was 5 minutes and underwater, but we did remix them.
In front of me, don't ask me why, she looked my way.
Yeah, we do all the instruments first, try to get that mixed, you know, try to get that right, and then come back the next day with the vocals. You know, it's usually a 2-day thing, and then like maybe a couple weeks later we'll do more mixing, remixing, and we do a pretty fair amount of remixing. Because, you know, we'll take home a tape, and then all of a sudden it'll be like, oh no, this is awful, what were we thinking?
I forgot to breathe.
Recording for me is pretty cool because the bass is pretty easy to handle. I mean, you can get a part done. There can be a couple of little mistakes, and it's not a big deal because it's in the background. So you go in, you know, and you lay down all the tracks, or play the song through once in our case, because there aren't really multiple tracks. And then I get to sit and argue with how loud things should be and if we should try tricks and things. So that's kind of fun. There are lots of being mystified at how the board operates and how you can make things sound so weird, and then sort of huddling back in the corner with someone and saying, well, are we going to regret that in 3 months if we let them do it, sort of thing.
Don't ask me why, I think she looked my way. Couldn't move, I tried, I'm sure.
And then we wait even longer to get enough money to reproduce the original tape and put it out, or pay the 7-inch company to put out a 7-inch. So it's a long, arduous process.
Couldn't move, I tried, I'm sure I'll be okay. It was 5 minutes, now you're 5 minutes, several blocks away.
Are we better represented by our live show or our recordings? That's a good question. I guess I'd have to go with our live show, just because, you know, that's how we write our songs, you know. But the recordings kind of, at least for me, they represent like what maybe like our best live shows sound like, just because you can actually hear Caleb, you know, out front a little bit, you know. But I think we keep the recordings pretty much true to form to what we do live.
You're really getting 2 guitars, a bass, drums, and 1 set of vocals, and it somehow mixes together live. There's more energy because you're playing in front of people, and it's louder. I mean, it's supposed to be loud and not clangy, but close to it. I mean, something about recording has still crystallized and made lots of tracks sitting next to each other and moving along that we're trying to work out, so it gets to be more and more of a big mess, and you get more of that live.
Well, we think that at least live we sound like a raw sort of wash of sound sometimes, and we've had problems getting that live because everything's separated on the tracks, and no matter how much you try and mix it together, I guess unless you just dropped 1 mic in front of the room, you won't be able to get things mixing with each other that much. So we've had a problem getting things to sound raw.
The producer or the sound engineer during a recording has so much more of a hand in how we sound than we do when we play live. Definitely live. And for a really simple reason is that you hear more of our songs live. We only have about 9 songs recorded. So you get the total package when we're playing live.
The history of Tizzy. Let's see. It all started about 2.5 or 3 years ago or so. My old band broke up. I couldn't get it together with any new people. And Joel, who was my roommate, is a really good guitar player, and I kept trying to sort of get him to play with me, but he had this other band and blah, blah, blah. And they broke up, which is too bad, 'cause they're a great band, but it was good for me.
Jen asked me if I wanted to join, and I was like, no, because I was in Putty Wad, and that was my band, and it was like, you know, my band and stuff, and my friend, like, just not told me outright, but just kind of let me know that, you know, Putty Wad wasn't the end of my life and wasn't going to be the band that I was going to be in the end for my life. And I remember I went to the Bay State one night, and I was like, you should join Tizzy. So we started jamming. Soon after that, Putty Wad broke up, so I was psyched I had Tizzy going on.
I
I'd been in bands for quite a while and was just getting really tired of playing and dealing with all the politics of being in bands and having to deal with, you know, other people. Not so much that, but just kind of sick of the whole thing. But when I started playing with Tizzy, it just seemed really fun because Jen had this great energy and excitement about, you know, wanting to do it, and she was very committed. And I went to see them play at the Bay State for the first time, and I just remember kind of being really scared talking to them. I was kind of afraid of Joel because when I first met him, he had this really long hair and this just had this, you know, fierce look about him, but it was so far removed from who he actually is. It's funny. So that was it. I saw them. They claimed it was a really bad show, but I really enjoyed their music and thought, you know, this is music that I would listen to, and I really like this. So there you have it.
I started playing violin, and I remember like figuring out like Smoke on the Water on the violin and realizing that maybe it was time to get a guitar. My sister and I were going to go in halves on an electric guitar and amplifier, but my older sister, but that never worked out for some reason. And my parents bought me and my brother, it was like my brother and I always had to do things at the same time, this crappy acoustic guitar, which I still play a lot. I mean, not like it's crap. I mean, it was nice, but it was just, you know, it's not like a super nice one. But, you know, they expected me to play it for a month and then never touch it again. And we each took lessons, this guy named Teri in Lafayette. And my brother just only took a month or two. And I just kept, I didn't go, I maybe took a year of lessons, and I just kept playing. And I really haven't put it down since.
My mom says that I was banging on everything in the house from about age 5, so finally they took me to a place where I could harness that energy and put it to some use. So I remember my first lesson being very excited, and I had a little pair of sticks, and I was ready to go, I was ready to rock. And the first thing that my teacher taught me was a double stroke roll, which was basically sitting and playing on a practice pad and going right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, and I thought, this isn't what I want to do. I want to like bang things and hit them, but you know, drum lessons teach you discipline, and eventually I could see the big picture. And I still don't have a really good double stroke roll, but I can hit things hard. That's all I ever wanted.
I was about 12 years old, and I played clarinet for a few years before that, and that was kind of hard because the reeds always break and spit drips out the end of the clarinet, so it's kind of gross. And after I got into high school, I didn't want to play it anymore because if you were played an instrument, you had to be in the marching band, and I had no interest in going to any football games. So my friend Chris played guitar, so I thought I'd play bass, and then we could start playing together. So she took guitar lessons, and I took bass lessons from the same guy, and we'd have joint lessons sometimes. So I guess it's been about 12, 13 years.
Betty versus Veronica could have been best friends or even lovers. It's been 50 years, stop competing for guys and try to make up with each other. I asked you to do this for the good of song.
When we record, the recording process it's been variable. Some parts of it are really fun, and some parts are agonizing because just trying to get the song exactly right and perfect because you can't hear any mistakes. So that's the hardest part for me, is like really nerve-wracking playing, like thinking I don't want to mess up, and usually that makes you mess up.
I like to record a lot. I wish we could do it more. I wish it wasn't so formal and expensive, because I'd just like to have a new song and go record and just be able to mess around with it in the studio, add another guitar track, try some background vocals, and if they don't work, ditch it, you know, just whatever. But I like to record. I think it's fun. I think we're getting better at it as a band. Or I think we're getting to be we're a better band, but we're recording better too. goes hand in hand.
Just in general, I hate recording. The process that I like most in recording is mixing, because then everything's done, my part's over, in the sense that I don't have to play anymore, I can't screw it up anymore. Mixing is really fun because I like playing with different levels, I like putting it all together. That's my role in the recording process. So I enjoy it once my part is done and it's there. And the best part is when you get it back in some kind of tangible form, a CD or a tape or something, and you know, for a while that's just like all you want to listen to. Like, this is me, this is great, this is us, and it's really exciting. I didn't really have an incentive to being in a band. It wasn't a goal of mine. Every band that I've been in has kind of found me, and I don't know why that's happened, but I've just been very lucky, I guess, in that aspect. So once I started playing in a band, it was really fun, and it just became something that I did. It never seemed weird to me to be in a band, you know, even when my high school friends were off playing sports or, you know, doing stuff like that. And it never occurred to me that what I was doing was unusual. But the older I get, the more I realize it is a really weird hobby.
I started with my Duran Duran obsession and grew out of there because I loved them when I was about 11 and 12 and maybe 13, but I'm not sure. And first I wanted to be like their photographer and go around and take their pictures, and then I was like, well, I'll just be their backup singer. And then I wanted to be the keyboard player. And so that's like really the first band, like rock band, I really knew a lot about and liked and stuff. So I guess you could trace it back to there. But I've always liked writing poems and stuff, so I like the idea of writing songs and playing an instrument.
Long before I played any instrument besides the violin, I don't know, you just sit around with your friends on the playground and go, all right, you be David Lee Roth, I'll be Eddie Van Halen, you know, and we just like do nothing, you know. But I always like, I don't know, I always thought guitar was cool. I never could solo. Like in high school when I was playing guitar, like you'd go to the guitar shops and all these like wanker guys on pointy guitars, like moving their fingers really fast, and I could never do that. So I just would play and never really thought I was good, I just play. And you know, I didn't really feel the need to be good or anything, I just didn't like to solo because I couldn't, but I loved to play.
How did I meet Tizzy? Oh man, what a night that was.
I would say that I've been around for every little step of Tizzy because Jen and I were already good friends from the other previous projects, and we lived together during that time for a couple of years. And so I followed Tizzy very excitedly from the very beginning.
I was in an art class with the lead singer of Tizzy's boyfriend slash fiance, Jotham, and I had no idea what local music or was, or how important it was, or I didn't listen to anything good then at all. And I don't know why we started talking. We started talking, and he mentioned that he had friends in a band, and by then, of course, I was interested. I really just was ignorant, and so I asked for, I guess I got a sticker from him first that said Tizzy, so now I was familiar with the name, and I saw them play they had a different lineup. They had a different drummer who had this massive bass drum. It was like a marching band's bass drum. That's all I remember. And we saw them play in some basement of a dorm at UMass. And I mean, they were good. I just didn't know what to expect. So I was kind of just absorbing without enjoying the first time.
I'm not sure if this is the show, but I went to Greeno, and I think Tizzy played, and then 2 bands later, there was this hardcore band from, like, New York, and they wrote songs about, like, Yoo-Hoo and White Castle, and they decided that it would be funny to not only fill up Windex bottles with Kool-Aid to make it look like they were drinking Windex, woo-hoo, but also to sing the song about White Castle burgers, and in the middle of it, throw White Castle burgers into the crowd. And I found a piece of White Castle burger in my jacket pocket like a week later. It was pretty nasty. But these guys are so bad that people just threw the burgers back at them.
The Mitchells we met through Jotham, Jen's boyfriend, and he invited us to a show that they were playing at the Bay State, an open mic, and so we all went to see them, and it was really fun, and we liked them a lot. We had a tape of theirs before the show, and we really liked their music, so we all went to see them, and we just all sort of ended up hanging out together. They had the same kind of sensibilities that we had, and we kind of saw them as potential new friends. We tried to gather them into our group, and it worked.
The Mitchells I met when they played, I believe it was at the Fire and Water at Star's Place, and I went because our mutual friend, all of us, Ken Murray, had seen them, if I'm getting this story right, he had seen the Mitchells at a Battle of the Bands in Rhode Island, I think in Providence, where they cleaned the floor with everybody, all the local bands, which I thought was great. And they won, I believe. And Ken was raving about how cool he thought they were. And he's like, Ken's, for me, always been a great source of new music to go see, because he's a real aficionado of music. So he's like, you got to come see the Mitchells when they play next. And I always trust Ken's opinion, so I went, and they were great.
And we met the Mitchells through Tizzy, I would imagine. I remember it was one night at Fire and Water, and we saw them play, and I noticed, it was the first time I'd seen them, and I saw that Bill had a Pirate Jenny sticker on his bass, so I was like, oh, they must be nice. And we became fast friends.
They were this young band from UMass, and they were just so sweet that you could not like them, you know. I mean, I think it was their first show, maybe not, but one of their first shows, and I think it was a little rough, but they're just so genuine, and especially after the show, they're just so friendly, and that in the music scene is rare, and I think that's why we immediately, felt akin to them.
Pirate Jenny, I remember it was at Pearl Street the first time I saw them. And I remember just hearing how good they were. Jotham and Jen were like, yeah, they're really good. They had the drummer from Squeak, this band that used to live around here that's since moved away. And Squeak was just such an intense band, and their drummer was just like, the Squeak drummer in Pirate Jenny was really restrained, and I thought kind of held him back in certain ways. But I knew, I guess I knew the Amy's before Pirate Jenny. I don't know, they're just like, just can't remember how I've met them.
I think the first time we actually met, or I met Pirate Jenny, I think the rest of the band might have seen them, but not met them, was at the Fire and Water during the Sourpuss farewell show. Not entirely sure. And we might have been at the same shows together when other people were playing, but I guess the first time I officially shook hands and said hi was then. I forget what date it was.
Caleb did some did some of his hobnobbing because he's good at that, and then I sort of followed along because I was there, but not real excited about hobnobbing because I don't care for it. And then we sort of dragged the whole band in, and then the same sort of thing enveloped over. That's how we wound up meeting Pirate Jenny. You know, I'd seen them play months and months and months before, and then that was it. Like I was like, they're pretty cool, but I didn't know them. I didn't even know their names or anything like that. So we just sort of one day at a time got ourselves into events where they were and got talking with them. So now that we got to be friends, and it's beautiful.
Being in a band compared to doing other creative things, the politics are much more complicated. Most of the other creative projects that I do are like by myself, and with the band, you've got all these people. You've got to work out all your differences, and you got to mesh all your different ideas, and it is definitely, you get stuff that you wouldn't have come up with on your own. It's more rewarding, and it's also more of a hassle, I think.
Being in a band is like painting, except instead of when you're painting, there's multiple parts of your mind wanting you to do different things. Like there's the analytical part that says, well, that corner doesn't look right, or that shade is wrong. In a band, there's the band member who says, well, I don't like that part, or this should be louder. And painting is less of a team. Well, it's definitely not a team effort, whereas a band is. So right now, I appreciate what I do with the band more. I think that's more of an accomplishment because you have to deal with yourself and with others to get something done.
It's like an art form that gets immediate feedback. It's kind of cool. I know people who paint or draw or act or do whatever, and even if they're really into it and they have like a whole room in their apartment dedicated to painting, when are they going to show that? Maybe rarely once they'll get a art thing, like a show, and there'll be people there and they'll look at it, and then you'll put it away and it'll kind of be forgotten. But with music, it's great because you can just like have a record or a tape of your music, and you get in front of people and you do your art like in front of people. It's so immediate. It's awesome.
He asked me if I wanna live faster. He asked me if I wanna ride like William Shatner. Bone said, damn it, Jim, I know we didn't do it. I said, hey man, I know you can't prove it. He asked me if I wanna be the master. He asked me if I wanna ride like William Shatner. Yeah.
If I wasn't playing in the band, I don't know. I don't listen to a lot of like current music, so maybe I'd probably be going to see local bands playing more, instead of going out and actually playing. But I don't know. It's not so big a chunk of my time as it was maybe 2 years ago. But I don't know what I'd be doing.
If I were not in the band, I would be sitting somewhere in a tiny attic room with no windows, smoking 1 billion cigarettes today and hacking on a typewriter all the time.
I guess before I got involved with Flower Thief, my plan was to move to Germany, and I was gonna try and study electronic music. I don't know if I would have done that. I might be living back on the West Coast. Some new age hippie commune, I don't know. Who knows what could have happened to me. I'm glad that what happened to me did happen to me. I'm doing what I'm doing.
If I wasn't playing in a band, I'm not sure what I would be doing. I think I'd be a lot less happy. And I don't know if I would be in grad school or just working the same job I have now, but if I wasn't in a band, I guess I'd be trying to focus on some other creative thing, like writing or being like a singer-songwriter type, or maybe doing like drama or something, but I don't know. It's what I've always wanted to do, so I don't even like to think that way.
Mr. Cool Guy, wish I could scoot you in jeans. Hey, Mr. Cool Guy, wish I could part your scene. Hey, Mr. Cool Guy, could I borrow your creepers? I like your clothes, but my underwear's much deeper than that.
My parents are very proud. They like telling people I'm in a band. They like playing my music for people, and it's just, it's so embarrassing when that happens. Because it's like, they don't want to hear that, you know? They want to hear their music. They don't want to hear me blasting away. But it's nice. It's nice that they're proud. It's nice that they're supportive. It's really important, you know, to have that kind of support system behind you, you know, in anything that you do. So it's nice.
My parents, they're okay with it. My dad pretty much hates anything with guitar distortion, so he wouldn't listen to us, and my mom just kind of is like, oh, that's nice, you know, but I mean, they're all right with it. My dad he wants me to get into a band and make some money, so he wants me to like play weddings and stuff, which, you know, would be all right, but I don't want to play satin doll for the rest of my life.
I don't know, my parents look at it as a hobby, me being in a band, and it affects that because I think they're kind of scared that I like it as much as I do. Not directly, not like they're worried, but they're just, you know, it's you know, my mom's big dream is for me to go to grad school, you know. I don't know why, but that's like her thing, and she wants to go to grad school. And just after a while, I just had to tell her, hey, I'm not going to go to grad school now. I can't. I want to be in a band.
My family loves it. They're awesome about it. They think it's neat. They play our tape like really loud in their car while they drive around in Wisconsin. I'm sure people are just like shaking their heads.
At first, being in the band kind of made my parents worry. They're like, your grades are going to suffer, you know, you gotta keep your grades up, otherwise we'll take your guitars away. But I don't think it's hurt my grades any.
Identify more with the sex of rock and roll or the drugs of rock and roll. You know, I've really never found rock and roll that sexy, but I can see how it is sort of a drug.
I want to know what everyone else said.
I think the sex of rock and roll, because drugs are so self-indulgent, and sex is more about sharing with someone. So, you know, I think the way we play music, I hope is more like people having sex than like some other band that would play music that's just like one person taking drugs.
I'm gonna have to go more with the drugs and rock and roll myself. I'm gonna have to go with the mind-altering part. Would be my big interest.
Oh, I would have to say the sex because I don't identify with the drugs.
Can I pass on that?
Okay, which part do I identify with, the sex or the drugs of rock and roll? Well, I think I identify with the rock and roll.
I think wanting to get laid is more admirable than wanting to trip because of music. So I don't know, but I mean, drugs are a big part of rock and roll also because, again, you know, you play in bars, you have beers, you get drink tickets, you don't get like babe tickets at bars. That'd be nice, maybe. It'd be an interesting concept.
I mean, some of Amy and Amy's songs definitely have a good sexual element to them, which I think is good. And the audiences we're playing to, I guess, are younger and have more of a sexual appeal in some ways, which, you know, I can't help but notice, so.
I think I definitely identify more with the sex of rock and roll than the drugs of rock and roll, although I can see how they can both be applicable. There are times when I definitely feel like I'm in a different world or different existence on stage, and that's, you know, a drug type of experience or feeling. And there are times when I feel really connected on stage to the audience, you know, the way you would with someone when you're having sex. And it's very sensual, it's very give and take, and it just feels good.
Neither. I don't dress the part, I don't look the part. I just go out and play my guitar.
The cheesy rock and roll stereotype I am most guilty of is probably throwing my head around when I'm playing, like hair flying. But it's bad. It's bad for you kids at home because you can hurt yourself. So that's definitely the cheesy stereotype that I'm guilty of.
I like to play solos on my guitar a lot. I've been known to, you know, rip off a couple behind my back or whatnot, but that's probably the worst I'm guilty of.
I don't really think that I'm guilty of being like a guitar virtuoso or whiz or god or anything like that, but sometimes, you know, like, you know, when you like do your legs, do the Ramones, like spread your legs with your guitar down, that's like something that I guess I do.
Stick twirling. I love twirling my sticks. That's all I can say.
Let's see, well, I don't twirl my sticks. I don't take off my shirt when I play.
What cheesy rock and roll stereotype am I most guilty of? Guilty of doing, guilty of liking?
I'm very guilty of schmoozing a lot before and after shows. I don't think I'm the raging alcoholic of the band, so that's what I've got.
Like, I guess I'm the pedal girl. Like, I have all my pedals, I'm constantly, like, changing. I'm the annoying guitarist who's constantly, like, changing this and changing that and fiddling around with all the little, you know, guitar tones.
I'm most guilty of being the somber, tortured genius one. I'm the one who's going to turn his back on the audience during the show or decide that he doesn't like what's going on and purposely just stare out the window for the entire show, or get mad and throw the bass off and walk away in the middle of a show, or that sort of thing. I'm the one who's most likely to just stand there while the rest of the band is talking with a bunch of friends and be absolutely silent and have nothing to say to them and be very, very attitude-ridden.
I think the most cheesy rock and roll stereotype that I'm guilty of, sort of going like, woo, in songs, and like, wah, and like screaming in songs and stuff, you know, like, I'm really mad, and like at the end of this song, I'm gonna end the last note by like screaming, and that's sort of cheesy, I guess, and I do that all the time.
I like Pirate Jenny because they have a really good overall sound. Just the sound of the voices and the instruments and the amps and the way the amps are set and the way it's played has a good, everything matches right, you know. Their guitars are the right sort of complements to each other between the, you know, Amy Green's is really bright and sharp and clipped off sounding, and then Amy Swift's is smoother, so it matches, and I like that. And I don't think I've ever seen them where they had bad levels either. It's always right every time I've ever heard them, so I like that.
My favorite part of Pirate Jenny is probably the instrumentation of their songs. I like how they switch instruments. I like just the way they're constructed. I like the harmonies, the vocals that they have. Their voices blend really nicely together. They write really good songs, really strong songs, and I really enjoy watching them.
The thing I like best about Pirate Jenny is that Amy and Amy have been friends of mine for a really long time, and it's great to sort of do things parallel to them. I mean, we're in different bands. It didn't work out with us playing together or even living together, but we remain very good friends, and I just like to see them have successful shows, and I like to play with them.
One of the main aspects of the Mitchells that I really love, that I think is interesting, that a lot of bands don't do, it seems like a lot of four-piece bands, the double guitar, bass, and drums, a lot of the double guitars are almost superfluous. You're like, why do they have another guitarist? He's just mimicking the other person's part. The Mitchells, though, it's like Caleb and Kayvon write these guitar parts that sort of interplay with each other. It almost sounds like one guitar sometimes if they're playing these interweaving parts. Or if Kayvon is just playing a solid lead and Caleb's just playing a nice chunky rhythm part. They really complement and like work together well instead of just sounding like one guitarist doing the same thing just twice as loud.
I like the way that they always try and make nasty sounds with their guitars. They always try and have these like really like dissonant, like, you know, distorted type of, you know, influence in the songs, but the songs always seem to come out very sweetly. It's a very sweet evil.
I like how they all sort of have totally different personalities. That's a thing I like about the Mitchells. Kayvon, Caleb, Bill, and like all totally different, but they can all like be goofy and have fun together.
For both Tizzy and the Mitchells, I like the live shows. I just like live shows better than the recordings, I guess. I like to see my friends there, you know, and see them performing the music.
The first time I saw Tizzy that I actually remember seeing them, because the first few times I was a little foggy, but the first time I really noticed them was when I kind of took note of all the time stops, which kind of being a junior prog person myself, like kind of I was interested because it had a lot of, it like stopped and then kept going again or whatever, but so that's one of the things that I kind of like.
Well, Tizzy, it's such a great energy. It's really, you can't help but just kind of get whirled up in it.
I don't think we sound that much like Pirate Jenny or Tizzy, but we might have copied some of their stage moves or something. Sometimes Bill looks a little bit like Joel, you know, bouncing around with his bass. And I've copped Joel's guitar playing stance a couple times too. I can't do it right, but I've tried it. It's like some modified fighting stance in like Taekwondo or something. It's really great.
My favorite part of listening to a Tizzy song is the way that all three parts are pretty complex, but the song is moving in a straight line, and it's not giving you a reason to pause and notice how complex it is. It just is, and that's what it is. You know, a lot of things have gone into making the part, but it hasn't been done to showcase a part because there are other things going on, and the tempo of the song is moving right along. You don't really have the time to ponder, oh wow, that isn't that interesting, he's doing such and such and this and that. You just listen to it and let the song make its point before it's done, because if you think too long, it will be done.
In our band's future, I see recording. How we do that is still a mystery, but we're working on recording, and also new songs, new material. A lot of stuff has been put on hold because of, we've been playing a lot out, and we work too much for our day jobs, and I'm just trying to do everything, I guess.
Well, we got to work really hard and earn some money because we've run up quite a debt on one of my credit cards, and we have to pay that off before we can do much else.
I think for the band's future for the short term is, I know we've all definitely wanted to play in a wider circle. And I mean, much as I love Northampton and everything, it's a limited, and it seems to get more limited every day as each music venue closes down or has less music per week or whatever. And we've kind of done it. Not that we want to stop, but I'd like to do other places too.
What do I see in the band's future? I have no idea. Mike already graduated. The rest of us are probably going to graduate in the spring. And I don't know, I'm either going to go to grad school or med school. I'm not sure what Bill and Caleb are doing. So we kind of take it as it comes, week by week.
It's all up in the air pretty much because we can be guaranteed that Kayvon will go to grad school, and we'll probably have a lot less time to do it. But as far as I go, I don't know. I'll probably have a lot of free time in my life. So
I want to see the difference between the parts that everyone plays grow more and more profound. Just more layered and more noisy, and I'd like to see us stop arguing about it and just do it, and hopefully have a growing number of people think it's cool.
I see forever logistical problems in our band's future. I see scheduling problems. I see tight time frames. But I see a lot of good songs still to come.
I see in the band's future lots of shows, hopefully. I think the shows is where we really get excited and have a good time, and I love meeting other bands and just have fun. So I see hopefully a lot of good shows and more recording and a tour in the spring.
In the near future, I see more recording. I'd like to do a full-length CD at some point. I think we have enough songs. I think the material that we have is strong, and definitely another tour.
My hope and desire is just to keep doing what we're doing, and those things will all fall into place. I think we'll get bigger. And not like we need to get bigger, because we're at a level now where I never thought I'd ever be in a band. Is at. We're huge in relation to other bands I've been in. We could. That's kind of neat. So I'm happy. Just keep doing what we're doing is my goal.